ago and things like that. And,
Mhm.
yeah. And there was some protests going on due to the police violence and everything that has happened in the last couple of days. So
Okay. Okay.
constant unrest. But that's the world, That's why we love horror, because it's a reflection of the world. So,
Pretty much. Pretty much. So, my format really is questions critiqued around the horror genre.
hmm
And towards the end of the interview, I usually have a speed round where I ask you more questions and stuff. It's more of a fun thing.
okay.
So don't have to panic because I see your eyes like, uh-oh.
Oh my gosh, a quiz this early.
Yeah, just a little something. So let's get into the first question. And that is, how did you get into the horror movie genre?
I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and sorry, car outside. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and one of the things with growing up with boys, mainly boys, all like I was like the youngest girl in my family for a bit, and one of the things was the guys would always try to scare me, like
Mm-hmm.
constantly. They would constantly be trying to scare me. And one of the things was with Freddy Krueger. Like anytime we were over our granddad's house or whatever, they'd all like disappear on me, and suddenly they're outside like scratching on the door, because they knew oh my gosh, like I was so scared of Freddy Krueger, especially as a Pisces and a daydreamer. Like I'm all about dreaming all the time. So of course,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest monster would be Freddy. And funny enough, my mom always told me like the first movie she ever took me to, I was an infant at the time, and this was back when I guess movies stayed in the theaters a while longer, was Freddy, which was Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, which is the one that, people don't appreciate as much. It's a little underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always kind of been around. And I think somewhere in the midst of my younger childhood, I it just kind of flipped on me. Like instead of being super scared of it, I thought there was something so intriguing about not the darkness, but just the way it dealt with monsters
Mm-hmm.
and fear and things, and especially seeing Final Girls and others survive. Everyone
That was a
doesn't
good movie
survive.
too. I enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
yeah, not everyone survives, but people do survive. And there was a certain optimism there in the face of such, fear and horror. And I'm like, well, that's kind of empowering, isn't it? That there's a chance of winning against like unsurmountable like odds, right? So I think I just became someone who just really saw it as a way of reflecting on society.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing stories, like little mini stories that were kind of fantasy, but also about ghosts and demons and things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of I fell in love with it because I think it just gave me freedom to kind of go outside of the boundaries of what we consider like modern or the mundane world. So
Cool. Now, are you still writing?
I am. I actually finished a book. I wrote a novel based off of a play that I actually wrote that was produced up in San Francisco a few years back. And
Mm-hmm.
I turned it into a novel, deals with the succubus demon and other
Mm-hmm.
things. It's kind of horror, but it's more dark fantasy, but there's horror elements into it because it gets debatable what's horror, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a horror, dark fantasy kind of thing. And I did finish that. Not sure, a certain thing happened that stopped the world. So, I mean, once I finished it, everything just kind of went to a halt. But I'm hoping to eventually get it, published and out there. It's not my main focus right now with the writing. I've been leaning more on my critiques and things of other forms of entertainment. But I definitely do. I still enjoy writing and telling stories, telling my own stories as well.
All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So the next question I have for you is this: what made you start your YouTube channel?
Well, when I moved out here to Los Angeles, I'm one of the things I still do. I'm a full-time journalist, political journalist. Actually, that's kind of the main thing that brings the bread and butter in for now. Is my political writings, and I interwove like culture and stuff in it. But I just really wanted to go into, as someone, I have a degree in drama, and I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved digging deeper into fictional and non-fictional stories. And I thought my YouTube channel they tell you pick a niche, you can't just be general, when you do the whole YouTube technicalities or whatever to get noticed in analytics. So I was like, well, one of the topics I love is horror. And I really wanted to push to have legitimacy as a film critic, as a film and TV critic. Because, you want legitimacy. I mean, I feel sometimes you want legitimacy somewhere to have the access and things like that. To have the access to things that you do want to critique. So I just really, I started my YouTube initially where at first when I was kind of thinking about writing, it was more like, okay, I want to start a YouTube to show people I know about horror. So when my horror book drops, but then I realized I was like, I really do just enjoy talking about culture and books and things and movies and all that stuff, and horror particularly.
So it sounds like you're well-rounded.
Yeah, because this is the thing. I think to be a critic, which is what I consider myself, is you can't just. I mean, there's a difference between if you're a critic. It's just like someone who writes a book. One of the things they tell you is know about other stuff, know about things beyond yourself, so that can inform your book. Right? If you're writing something, I think it's the same thing with someone who's a critic. If you are critiquing something and the only thing you can come out of it is your limited, because we all are limited if we just know our life, and your limited viewpoint, it kind of limits your ability to improve yourself as a critic of what the things you can see and the things you can analyze and the references of life and history that you can see in other people's art. So for me, I wanted to bring that to the table as someone who is into all types of topics like history and archaeology and science and all of that stuff. I wanted to bring that kind of, like you said, well-roundedness to my critiques of film. And I started with the horror genre because that was something where I never had to force myself to want to watch a horror movie. When you're a film critic, but yeah, when you're a film critic, sometimes you get stuff and you're just like, oh man, all right. Like, cause you just know you might not like it or whatever, but that was never the case with me with horror. I'm just always ready for a horror film. So I was like, this is probably the easiest way for me to kind of get into the groove of watching films and critique and bringing analysis to them.
It's funny you said that because I used to have a book club with a couple of my friends, teenage years, and my cousin of mine's older gentleman handed me a book. I think, what was it? Behold a Pale White Horse. It was one of those books. And after I read it, I went back and I was like saying all this stuff to him, and he says, "Look, that's not it. Did you do research on the author and why did he write the book?" And I was like. So ever since then, I started figuring out why did this person do this and that, not just the face of value. And I think that's what you're saying. So that's why I said you're well-rounded. It seems like you're more deep analytical thinker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I like to contextualize things. I like to put it in context of why someone made something. I don't believe in the saying, and I recently did a video on the series Them. And I did a thing, and that was something. And
talk about that.
Yeah, we can. And one of the things someone told me in the that comment section was popping. I mean, it was like 300. I was like, oh my gosh, this is different. And one person told me, like, sometimes art is art for art's sake. I'm like, now when you do a topic like that, it shouldn't be art for art's sake. People's trauma is not art for art's sake. You chose to do this for a reason. What's your reasoning? And is it altruistic, or is it, because you want that check and that green light that Hollywood wants to give you because they are okay with stories like this? And that was one of the things I questioned. And that's what I do when I, dig in. And I try not, with that, I didn't do it with spoilers, but I really just, I would hope with my critiques is like to give all of us a reason to question ideologies and things that are pushed out in art and things, because they really do affect our society. The way characters are portrayed, the way people are portrayed, the way you may think a story is just a story, and even the person who wrote it might just think it's a story, but no story exists in a vacuum. It all exists in whether the person grew up a certain way, what they think about things like capitalism, socialism, all this other stuff. All of that influences what they put on the page and on the screen. And I think it's so important to question that. And those are not the easiest questions and answers, and not everyone's always susceptible or receptive to that. And that's okay, because I'm here for them. Okay. I'll push it, I'm okay with that. All right. I'll be the bad guy in some people's story and the hero in others.
Yeah, I'm cool with that too. So what's your overall view on the series then?
Well, what I had said in my review was, and I said this after I watched all 10 episodes and before it came out, because I got the screeners, and I told myself I'm going to sit through this whole thing, because I try to give a little bit more space to shows that cover this kind of topic, because I just think it's necessary. I don't like to be dismissive of these kind of things, especially because it can be hard in Hollywood and the industry to get stories that are predominantly with Black faces in it and stuff, green light, because they all like to, use their little answers for why this doesn't work or it flopped. We can't do it. So I try to be, thorough. So I'm not, I'm not flippant. I'm not one of those people who's like, I hated this. And, just because I watched 2 episodes, so I watched all 10. So I sat through nearly 10 hours of what I considered Black trauma exploitation. That's what I thought it was. And I thought it was that. My argument for that, because I had an argument, and this is my thing. I'm okay when people don't agree with me. What I want is for people to be respectful. Take me on my argument, not on the things you want to insult me for. And my argument for them was the fact that it played on sprinkling things of history in it, and also references of history and things like that. But it was done in a way to hide behind that usage of history, to then give you exploitative trauma. I felt like it presented itself as an ocean, as being deep as an ocean, and it was as deep as a puddle, because the story was thin. It was a very thin story. The reason why all that was happening was just, oh my gosh, I was just like, that's it. That's the reasoning. And the characters were more caricatures than they were characters. And I'm like, this is a delicate topic. If you're going to tackle this, one, don't have it so 9 out of your 10 directors are white, and they're literally having the lens of filming.
Wait. You can't run past that. Say that again.
9 out of the 10 directors for this series were white. And this is the thing. It's not just about who's in front of the camera. It's about who's behind it. And I know the showrunner is Black, and I know Lena Waithe was the one that produced this, which is, I've got my own issues with some of the other stuff she's done. But it's the thing of you tell me, it's like I'm doing a follow-up video actually about Black trauma exploitation in films and stuff, and how this is to me a troubling trend that we're seeing. And I was just like, this is hiding behind this idea of telling you it's teaching you history, when it's not teaching anyone anything, not Black audiences and not white audiences. I felt like with Black audiences, it teaches us in a way, and they're not the only ones to do it, defeatism. It teaches defeatism, because the way this plays out, there is no victory for the Black person, for the Black family in a way. There's no satisfying payoff. And if you got the chance to tell a fictional story about Black trauma and you still choose the defeatist route, what message are you giving to the Black audience? And then some people argued in my comment section, or in general, they were like, well, this is for white people to see what's going on. This is to teach them.
White people, that's not an example or display of us for white people to see.
Right. And I'm just like, wait a minute. So they don't got the news? And let me assure you, if a Black person has to watch if a white person has to watch Black people get brutalized for 10 hours to understand that racism is bad and things, then I don't know if that's the person I want to be my ally, because they seem kind of slow on the uptick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is that the person you want fighting alongside you?
No,
That it took watching all that to get it?
sorry,
No.
Brad. We're gonna pass on you, Brad.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, it was things like that. And it was interesting in the comment section. I mean, there were some people who were respectful. Like I said, I'm not like I'm right in everything. I'm open to debate. I love debating art and culture. I think it's awesome. I think it teaches us and shows us who we are in things. But there were some insults and stuff like that. Some people got on some keyboard warriors were like, oh my gosh, how can I even take you seriously with your blonde hair? And I was just like, so you're getting on what color my hair is this week? Like, if that's what you think is what's going to bring around the revolution is hair dye.
So the disagreement, you hear it come up. There's no disagreement. You hear when they come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I see it.
Here's my thing on the show, and it's going to kind of like keep it small because due to the interview. When Obama got in office the first term, we had a plethora of The Help, Blind Side, 12 Years a Slave, Butler, Django, all these movies, right? And what I was fighting with internally was, okay, I understand that black actors are not really getting work in Hollywood, so they have to get this up out there. On the other hand, it's like, okay, these movies are like, take your ass working with dignity. And that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, defeatism.
Yeah, defeatism. Like you said, Antebellum, I watched it. And all that we went through, the only thing you did was just shut the door and let them burn up. I want something equal to Braveheart, where they did 20 minutes of whipping their ass, and the rest of the movie, they kicked ass from sun up to sundown.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Agree.
So if you are going to put the movies out there, which we don't really need, then let's space those movies out. Far in between at least 7 to 10 years. And put them direct to DVD or stream them. After you get rid of them. But that's my view on that. I don't want to get too long-winded, but I definitely wanted to hear your view on it. I agree totally what you said. Like, I think you really thought about it, you analyzed it, and you came up with your own thing, which I appreciate. But
thank you.
The next question for you is there any place on the West Coast you visit that, like a scary house or location, anything like that?
Nothing particular. Like, there's no like I don't go in cemeteries. I got that old school vibe. So you got
limitations there.
I got limitations. I love horror in the sense of, like we were talking about, like what it reflects on society, but I do not tempt fate in the sense of like going to places where I might be possessed by a demon or anything like that. I am not aching for that in any shape or form. And I will leave that to ghost hunters and things like that. But I do like hearing about those stories. Like the Cecil Hotel is a place that a lot of people think in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, is haunted. And it recently actually had a Netflix series called The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. And it's right down there. And I've been close to it before. That's probably the closest I've gotten in something. And I didn't go in. I was good. I was like, I'm okay.
Okay. Today, coming back and prepared for the interview, I was with my lady, and there was some. Well, I live in Connecticut. The Warren family, I've seen them twice at lectures, and they're in Monroe, so that's 20 minutes away from where I live at. So you ever see The Conjuring, the couple?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here. So
it is.
So they passed away, and their house is still here. So they had a tour. And my lady was like, oh, you want to? I said, yeah, let's go check out. She said, look, I don't want to see Annabelle live because the dolls and all this stuff. She said, you can do the TV, but you hit me with the Meatloaf song, but I won't do that. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But there's a lot of horror events, stuff like that, historic stuff dealing with horror in Connecticut, like the Bloody Mary Tombstone to Sleepy Hollow. All this is in the New England area. And we do the Halloween trail, the hayride, stuff like that.
Cool.
But like you said, there's a limit to everything.
There is. Yeah.
All right. So keeping on with that is, have you attended any horror conventions / festivals?
I've gone to San Diego Comic Con. I've covered San Diego Comic. It's not necessarily a horror festival, but they do have a horror element in there that I lean towards when I have covered it or gone there. There there's one in Texas I kind of wanted to go to. But no, I haven't. I don't. You know what's so funny is that I originally, before I started YouTube, I was someone who was a horror fan, who was a horror fan in my own little bubble, kind of a thing. You know, I didn't necessarily go and try to like, because I wasn't sure the kind of people I'd be dealing with, to be honest. I'd be like, you know I'm a regular horror fan, but maybe some of these people like, Rolling in Blood and things like that. And I'm like, well, I don't know, to each their own.
That went through my head a couple of times.
Yeah. So it's and I think especially as a black horror fan, I think there's plenty of us. But the issue is we're not always represented at these kind of things sometimes. And it can be hard to wonder what you're going to get into when you go to them a little bit and the way it's, the environment.
Gotta roll thick. Don't
yeah. Yeah. No, it's a thing. So I haven't really made that kind of I've been invited to some virtual things, some virtual panels and stuff, but nothing physical yet. I haven't gone to them yet.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. One of the reasons I started this channel back up is because I noticed myself, I like horror movies. I enjoy horror movies. And looking around, it wasn't a lot of melanated people, like you said, participating in this. I said, let me jump up here, just throw it out there. This is what I like. It is what it is. So with that being said, I started looking around again on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I got in contact with Lady Sasha. We've been going back and forth for a couple of years. Finally got in contact with her. But looking around, it's the sisters. Mm-hmm. It's the sisters. And not on top of that, you know what I'm saying? Chauncey, they thorough.
Yeah.
It's not like, just like the basic go-to Jason and Halloween. It's like really in depth. So, I take my hat off and commend you. So,
thanks.
I told my lady, I said, look, I'm going to start off from the inside out, but I'm going to start off with these sisters that's really thorough and work my way out. So, that's how I'm approaching this because.
That's great.
I just keep 100 with you. I see some other channels and they stuff is half-assed to what you're doing. And all these like numbers and stuff. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
I said, but you know what? We ain't gonna be dwelling on that.
Wow.
I'm gonna get this going, and we'll just keep networking and keeping it.
Yeah.
And time we look up next year, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, we're enjoying something that we like, and like it's not a lot of us, so let's just rock out and enjoy each other and support each other.
No, I think that's really important because I think especially as people who are in the public space, where there is the hate that can come towards us from a variety of sides, depending on what someone's coming at you about and things like that. So it's so great to have community, even if you're not super close, like what you're saying, Alicia and stuff, like, and connecting, with people and stuff. It's just so good. And one of the things like I see, as you said, like young Black women or older Black women or just Black women in general who are starting things and stuff, because it's all ages and things like that. It's never too late or anything. And I'm just so supportive when they start a channel or something like that. I go up in the DMs and I'm like, look, if you ever need like, an idea for something, or if you want to know how do you get on this press list or something like that. Like I try to help because I think it's so necessary. When I became a certified Rotten Tomatoes film and TV critic, which took some, I applied, of course, because you have to send an application, and then if they deem you worthy, you can get it or not. But it's one of those things where, as a critic, even it's still 80% white and male, and it's like, we need. I think when Black women, statistically, it shows when Black women are part of struggles, we win. And union struggles, statistically speaking. I only know this because I report on this a lot.
The percentage is 90% or better when it comes.
Yes, and
it is what it is.
Yeah, and even when, and I think that applies to all facets, like of our lives, and the horror genre or the movie review areas and things include, especially critiques of art and culture. It's so necessary to have Black voices be a part of that.
How did your family did they approve, disapprove? Because I know some like what I started was putting on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm trying to figure out on YouTube promoting this, right? So I get my DM like, I know it's in horror movies. So a lot of people like it, and some people like, nah, man, you can't do that, just and that. I'm like, look, this is what it is. As long as everybody's safe and I'm not harming nobody,
yeah,
I'm good. But were there any kickback on your side as far as families and friends?
No, I'm actually very close with my family. I have a very large family. I have so many cousins, and because my mom comes from like a family of like 8 siblings, and I have a lot of cousins. I'm very close to my mom. I call her like every other day, and my brother, who's 10 years older than me, they've been very supportive. The only joke everyone makes is, I remember when Chauncey was so afraid of Freddy Krueger. That's the joke. It's like, I remember when she was so afraid they had to put the blanket over her head anytime he came on screen, and now she's like into horror. Like, how did that happen? That's the and it's a cute joke, you know. But for the most part, everyone is just so supportive. On my channel, I've had my brother on multiple times to talk about things with me, because he's also I think, a horror fan and things.
He has like the glasses.
Yes, that's my brother. Okay. Yeah, that's, you know, he's one of my best friends, and we always talk. I always joke he has horrible taste in film, so we debate a lot. But it's always a great, and they've just been super supportive. I actually do a weekly live stream with my mother for a TV series called Charm, it's a dark fantasy show dealing with witches. Yeah, that's my mom.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, she always gets that. Yeah, she looks young. But yeah, that's my mom, and we do it. So they're very supportive. And I one of the things, like we were just talking about, community is so important to me, especially in the things that have happened as of late. I love what I do, but I told myself I didn't want to be so much in the hustle culture that I missed out on my interpersonal relationships. And I'm like, how do I bridge this? And one of the ways was bringing people that I care about into what I love to do. And it's been pretty great so far.
Cool. All right. So the next question I have for you is, watching your videos, I see that your knowledge for the horror movie genre is pretty high. Is it because the love and interest you have for it?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think horror is such a great reflection on society. You have Wes Craven's Under the Stairs. You had George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. You had John Carpenter's They Live. Like, those are just examples of horror films that on the surface can seem like this is just scary, but they really do in their own way dig deeper into things, right? And, in recent years, we've had some other ones. I actually, I don't consider like what Jordan Peele did in Get Out similar to what Them is. And I think sometimes people mix that up, because I'm like, to me, Get Out was actually empowering to this, especially the official ending that it had. And like the fact that crap didn't happen. I was like, yes, that's what's supposed to happen when you get a chance to tell a story like this. You tell it that we win. Yeah. That's what you do when you get a chance to tell this kind of story.
Came through,
exactly. Yeah. And I think because of my wanting to dig deep into society, I consider myself, I don't like to call myself like an activist or something in that regard, but I do consider myself someone who, I got into the things I got into because I did want to change the world around me, to push against the status quo of times of like oppressive systems and things. And I thought, how can I do that? I know some people do it by other means and things like that. And I was like, well, I really love culture. I really love art and things. And I know for a fact that these things really do affect the way people think. The way, ideas get pushed on us affect if we fight back. It affects if we think there's a problem, or it tells us that there's not. Things like that. It either pushes the status quo or it pushes against it, right? And so I felt like horror for me as a genre was a big player in that, and pushing against the status quo if it was done right. And so because of that, I just have a great love for it that makes me want to dig deeper, to help other people see the themes that I think are there, to convey that to them so they can look at it in a different lens.
Girl, I agree. Plus, like you said, people, well, melanated people seeing us talk would say, you know what? There are people out here who enjoy this too, even on that level.
Oh yeah. When I first started and I started getting a little bit of traction and things, because I've had some starts and stops. Since October is when I really came back into doing it consistently and being like, okay, I'm gonna build this on a bigger thing. But when I started, it was so great to me getting direct messages and things from Black women in particular who are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I found your channel. I didn't think we were out there, and not just in the horror, but just like someone talking about movies and stuff. Like even if you go on YouTube, like some of the bigger movie review channels are white guys. And if they're not white guys, they're white women, and it's like,
and it's not, and we're not taking nothing from them. It's not like, a side dish. It's just that sometimes you're going from different perspective. That's
different sensibilities when you watch a show. That's one of the things I put in my reviews, depending on what's being showed, is trigger warnings, because I think it's important to let people know what you might be getting into when you watch a TV series or a film. If there's something that's going to be like, this gonna ruin my day, I would like to know about that, before someone tells me this is the greatest movie ever, you should watch it. But a dog died, like, come on, tell me in advance what I'm getting myself into. I think us as reviewers and things, we are in servitude in a way, right? We are creating a service to people who watch us. It's a public service to people. And if you're doing a public service, well, you want to make sure you're giving customers or clients, good product. And that means you need to be thorough. That means you need to, like you said, not just half step with it.
No, you can't. So the other question I have for you is how's it seen on the West Coast when it comes to the horror movie community?
It's pretty cool. The funny thing is, one of the cool things about YouTube is that not everyone's here in the sense. Hi, Night Watch. It's, not everyone's, here, because the great thing about YouTube is, like you said, you're in Connecticut and other people in Ohio and things like that. And so I haven't really met up with too many people in the horror community who are based here, except Did Meet James and Chauncey, who are probably one of the biggest horror channels. Did Meet James. He does the Did Meet count. He does the kill count on his show. A couple of times. Yeah, and he's really great. Their motto is "Be Good People," and it was really I'm actually doing some stuff. Hopefully, working with them in the future. But when I first started out. And he, of course, no one knows it or whatever, but when I first started out, him and Chauncey actually reached out to me and were like, we really like your show. Other people have told us about you, and they have helped me in other ways, like tech stuff, like, oh, we noticed, like your mic or whatever like that. Can we help you with that? Because, they had gotten by then to a point where they had like 2 million. At that time, they had like 2 million subscribers, and now they have like 4. And they've just become friends of mine. And I think that, I'm not someone who thinks I need a big circle or a lot of friends, because that's a lot of people you have to wonder if you can trust. And maybe that's just the Jersey girl in me, where I'm paranoid about people like Sopranos. But it's nice when you meet people who are genuine. And James and Chauncey are very genuine people, and they live in California. I've been over to their house. They have WrestleMania shows, watch parties and stuff. For them, to be at the level that they are in the horror YouTube game, but to still have that humbleness about them, it's nice to see,
And that's good to know. That's good to know. That's real cool. The next question I have for you is, how many movies you own in your collection, and do you own any horror memorabilia?
How many movies do I own? I own a good amount. I get a lot of screeners and stuff. So some of the movies I own are not the movies I want to own because I got sent screeners and I didn't like the movie. But I have a pretty extensive. I got all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets on DVD. My next aim is to get all the Friday the 13th. Because funny enough, I grew up eventually loving Nightmare on Elm Street as like originally would call it like my favorite horror franchise, mainstream. But I don't know if it's when you get older and you appreciate things a little bit more, but I have come to truly think the Friday the 13th franchise is probably one of the best mainstream horror franchises in terms of just the breadth of what it does with so simple of storyline. So that's my next thing I want to have. I have a lot of masks. I love horror masks. That's the thing. I don't wear them, but I love having them. Yeah, I like collecting them. I love horror masks. I have a lot of posters. That's kind of my thing. And I have a lot of Funko Pops. I have like Freddy Krueger. I have the best Pennywise, Tim Curry's Pennywise. No shade to the other one, but I wasn't filming that one. So I got a lot of those. I got horror books. I kind of want to get back into horror comic books. There's a very good one that I read recently. Is it called Now? No, it's actually called I don't know why I'm blanking on this. It's like The Box, and it actually deals with Black trauma, funny enough. But once again, it deals with it in a very empowering kind of way, and it deals with this box having, these things in it that represent moments of history, things like that to me are smart ways of presenting history with a horror tinge to it. There's also Philadelphia by Rodney Barnes, who is also a really great. He loves horror too. He's done a number of things. He used to write on American Gods and things like that. I mean, if you look at a lot of stuff that's there, if you look at the credits, you'll see Rodney Barnes' name. He's a really cool guy. And he has Philadelphia, which I'd like to get into as well, which is a horror comic. And he's a Black creative, and I think that's important. So, yeah. Okay. I want to get more Tales of the Crypt stuff too. That's what I want to start collecting, the old Tales of the Crypt type ones. I love comic books. As you can see, I'm a big comic book fan too. So I want to have more comic horror books as well.
Okay. Well, since you brought that up, you did a quick review on Invincible, and I collected the book. I have all. Oh
yeah.
I was like, I think she might have to read the books, but then again, at the same time, I think transitioning comics to film or to a series is hard because the general public is not familiar with the content, so it's kind of hard to really enjoy it. But keep watching it. And I think you might like it.
Yeah, I get the screen. I mean, I have Amazon Prime too, but they sent me the screeners for the first 3 episodes, and then they send them of the next ones or whatever. I haven't gotten back into it since I watched the first 3. I like Invincible. I did give it a B. I gave it a B-. I didn't give it lower than a B-. And I know there's like really avid fans. More, honestly, I didn't know it had such a passionate fandom at first because I had not seen it outside of its comic books. But yeah, no, there's a real passion. And I even have friends who were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad." I'm like, "Wow, you never have mentioned this comic book series before." And all of a sudden it comes out and I'm seeing so many Invincible fan people come out of woodworks. I'm like, you guys have just been keeping this to yourselves. I like it. I mean, it's a whole other conversation when it comes to the superhero genre and the superpowered genre and things like that. But I did like it. I liked it for the most part.
So the next question I have for you, in the horror genre, which do you enjoy watching? Slasher, classic horror, demons, etc., etc. Like, which one do you like?
My favorite type is the supernatural. I like ghosts and goblins and demon type stuff, just because I think it's a better chance to get into folklore when it's done right. I love that because, usually if there's something going on with a demon or a ghost or something, you're going to get some form of, it doesn't even have to be real history, but it feels kind of historic if there's like an old ghost from like the 1700s or something like that.
It's so much folklore up here. Just in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jersey has so many old churches around. There's so many churches from like the 1600s in Newark, in particular, where I'm from. And there's just so much history there. So many, graves and things that are from so far back. I mean, that's another thing in Jersey because it's been there so long. There's like a cemetery every couple of like miles. Oh my gosh, so many cemeteries. And so there's so much history there to play with. And I think I like that more than other subgenres of horror. I've come to love a little bit more zombie genre, but it depends on the way it's done. I have a love-hate with the zombie subgenre. And slashers, like, I don't know. I think sometimes I feel like some slasher movies in the last couple of years have kind of gone through a trend of nihilism where, you know, like, what is those things? Strangers or whatever, Strangers Pray at Night and everything, where everyone just dies. And I'm like, there's just no optimism. Why would I sit through an hour and a half or more of a film where I just know everybody's going to die? How is that like? I don't know. And I just feel a lot of slasher films have kind of started leaning into that for a little bit. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not into defeatist horror. I like when my heroines actually have some kind of victory.
Okay. All right. So the next question I have for you is, what can we expect to see on your YouTube channel in the future?
There's a few things. One is I have been expanding. Horror will always be where it is for me in terms of like the nucleus of my thing. Knock on wood, God willing. I will always have some type of horror element there in terms of newer movies and things. I love Shudder. I wasn't feeling them when they first started, but I think they've really improved, and I'm on their press list, and I get things. So I have a lot of Shudder stuff. Horror movie reviews definitely will be something that stays around, and horror TV series. But with that as well, I'll be expanding. I have been expanding, as people have probably seen. I've been doing a lot more other film reviews on superheroes, dark fantasy, drama, things like that. Just to, kind of expand the horizon, because there's just so many ways I want to dig into culture that I don't want to limit it. But so people can expect that, and probably a bit more commentary. I saw with the response to my Them review that sometimes when it comes to commentary, I definitely need to maybe do some videos that just aren't specifically that just aren't specifically to just the movie itself, but maybe concepts. Like I'm going to do a follow-up of, like I was telling you about Black trauma. And I want to do a follow-up about that.
Did you see it's a documentary, Black horror movies, the document, like Film Noir or something like that? I can't think of the title. Night Watch Zone probably know what I'm talking about. It was on Shudder. And it was basically a lot of Black actors and professors talking about the road that we had dealing with horror movies. So when you get a chance.
Oh, Film Noir. Yeah, I know it.
Did you check that out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, that was decent. I definitely enjoyed that. So when you do get your panel, I'll be looking forward to watch that, and I'll be leaving my comments down here below. Yeah,
please do. I love talking about the arts and stuff like that. It's good dialogue.
It is. It definitely is. The next question I have for you is, what horror movie you're looking forward to seeing this year?
Well, speaking of some of them, because I know Tony Todd was actually in Film Noir, is hopefully we'll see him in the upcoming Candyman. In some capacity.
That? Yeah. Can you consider that like folklore?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, literally, that thing deals with the history. That's why I loved it. One of the things of dealing with history, it is one of those horror movies you don't necessarily just watch every Friday night, because it is pretty heavy, but it's definitely one that needs to be watched every so often. So I'm looking forward to the new Candyman. I'm interested to see. I've seen the trailer, and I actually think it shows really good promise. And that's not always the case with reboots and remakes. I'm not the biggest fan of horror remakes, because sometimes I feel like they lose the essence of what
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Sometimes I feel like they lose the essence. So,
Yeah,
and I'm sure, us as horror fans, of course, we're gonna be mad. We're like, don't remake things I love. There's nothing wrong with them. So there's a little bias. Yeah, there's a little bias there. But sometimes they're just bad. Sometimes remakes are just bad. But I am looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to The Conjuring 3. The Devil Made Me Do It. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of the Conjuring horror universe. I just think it's so awesome, the Conjuring universe. I mean, isn't that so cool that we can say that about a horror franchise, that we have a horror universe of different monsters and stuff, right? Exactly. So I'm really looking forward to the Conjuring 3. Those are kind of my two that I'm like, okay, I'm excited about these two.
And you know what? I forgot the sister name who's directing Candyman, but I'm looking forward to see how she tackle this project. Okay, so the next one I have for you is, do you see the representation of melanated people in horror movies in front and behind the cameras? Like, are we there? Do you see the expansion of it, or are we stagnant, or what?
I think it depends. One of the great things about horror is that you can do things with a shoestring budget. You can tell a really good horror studio movie and stuff with found footage and things like that. So that makes it so it's easier sometimes to kind of break into than other movies that you need studios and thousands of dollars behind you, right? So I think horror lends itself to more space for Black creators in front of and behind the camera. With that said, I do still think that it could be better, way better, especially when you think of mainstream horror and what they greenlit in Hollywood, as we saw with them and some other ones. Yes. So it's like, and I get it though. Sometimes, you can't get that check unless you play the story kind of the way they want, but then you have to question if the check is worth it, if that's going to be what your legacy is of your art. So I think, Black creatives in front of and behind the screen have something of a minefield to have to deal with when you think about it, right? Because it's like they want to be out there, rightly so. But then it's like, depending on what Hollywood's pressuring them to do and act like, there's that pushback. So it's like, where do we find this space to empower ourselves to kind of tell our stories or tell stories we want to tell? They don't always have to deal with racism and things. We can just have demons and ghosts too. And it's like, where do we have that space? I think horror lends itself to that because, like I said, you don't need as much money behind you. So you might not be so beholden to some big executive with the shoestrings, with the puppet strings telling you what to do. So, I think it's there. I think it could be better though.
Yeah.
Representation.
And I think sometimes we have to do our own thing. Like Tyler Studio.
Oh, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, it's one of the things, especially with the horror genre, you can do horror without needing millions of dollars behind you. Right. And so if you can do that, maybe that's where we need to go. But I also get it. People need to make money. People need to eat.
Yeah. You got that right too. So here we go. We're getting into the speed round.
Oh my gosh.
And we had one person who got it flawless. His sister came in and she knocked everything out the box. I was like, okay. Won't
be me. I know that. I already know that. I'm horrible at names. It's not gonna be me.
I don't know. Don't sell yourself short because I got faith in. Let's see how this works.
Okay.
So the first one is, what TV show had a female high school vampire hunter?
Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
See, there you go.
Well, that's one of my favorite shows. I actually performed the musical at my school.
Really?
Yeah, I was playing Buffy.
What movie started director James Wan's career in the horror genre?
Oh, The Conjuring. No? What was his first one? Oh, Insidious.
Nope.
No, it wasn't Insidious. That was the first one I saw of him.
It was Saw.
Saw?
Yes, that's his first movie.
That makes sense. Saw's not one of the ones I follow. I only saw the first one. Okay. That's what's up.
Yeah. The next one is what horror movie comedy the Wayne brothers star in that is a cult classic?
Scary Movie.
There you go. There you go. Okay. What Stephen King book made movie had a dog attacking a mother and a son locked in a car?
Cujo.
Hey, see?
I know Stephen King.
Yeah, because I be trying to come up with these questions and stuff, so you know. What iconic horror figure wears a green and red sweater?
Freddy Krueger, of course.
Yeah. See, these ain't too bad.
No, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're just fun around stuff to do. All right. What name you should never repeat 5 times into a mirror?
Candyman and Bloody Mary.
Oh, see, now you back up to 100.
I gave an extra answer.
There you go. What is Leatherface's weapons of choice?
The chainsaw.
There you go. There you go. All right, so this is what is the name of the camp which is the setting of the original Friday the 13th?
Crystal Lake. I think it's Crystal Lake.
There it is. And what's the name of the island King Kong is from?
Skull Island.
See, he knocked these out the park now. And this is the last one. What's the name of the day worker whose mother was bit when she was pregnant with him?
Oh, Blade. Oh my gosh, yes. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, no, that's Blade.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's see. I definitely enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad that you reached back out to get this.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, further down the road, I would love to have you back up here again.
Yeah, for sure.
More topics, maybe a panel.
Mm-hmm.
Our sisters, and we just have something, just have at it.
Yeah.
Night watching on, I appreciate you watching.
Yeah, thank you.
This will be building up, and of course, I just appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it too.
All right. And there's any questions, anything you would like to ask me?
No, well, in terms of, I feel like I got a lot of it. So are you like, so you want to kind of, do like the interviews of the horror world? Is that kind of your angle, like digging deep in that way and looking at the personalities that make up the horror community? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely take that aspect to it. I will be doing some reviews, but that's one of the main things I'll be working on is like reaching out to people that I feel was warranted to be interviewed and moving on. But I'll also be having people that enjoy the conversation with the bring to the horror community. And that's you. You're one of them. So I will be reaching out again to have you back on my platform. But again,
awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate this. I hope this was fun.
It was.
Because I enjoyed
it. A little early for me on the LA West Coast, but I wake up for horror.
And you know what? I looked at the time, and I think I'm going to push it up. Because right now, I think we started at 1.
Yeah, so I think it's 1 your time.
Yeah, I'm going to do it at 4.
Oh, okay.
So next time I do have you come on, it'll be later on. It won't be so early.
Yeah, whatever works for you. I like being on here. This is great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you, and have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.